Hey everybody, welcome back. We had that one whole week off, I guess a week plus, but we are back with a an interview today with a gentleman who's not been on the channel before, but he's been on CAF for a while, and I've appreciated the artwork he's posted to the CAF, so it's long overdue. And I think if the stars align, Jim will be at OAX this year, or well, next year as well. So lots to talk about, but it has we did have a very fun week in San Diego. I can promise everybody we'll be talking a lot about that on Thursday during the CAF update, and yeah, a lot of good things happened in the week off. I saw many of you there, and it was a very good time. So I'm looking forward to talking more a bit about what went on while we were there, and it is what it is. But hey, Jim is in the green room, ready and raring to go. So please, everybody, welcome Jim to the show. Hey, Jim.
Hey Bill, how are you? Good to see you.
I'm good. I did. We were talking a little bit in the green room. Right before about 30 minutes ago, a like hurricane force winds blew
Oh,
through here, and so that's why I look kind of disheveled because Maureen made me run out and get a few things out of the yard before they ended up a mile away. So
oh
it was.
wow. Yeah,
Yeah,
I hope
it is
everything's okay.
hurricane season. We've never gets too bad here, but usually we get a lot of wind
Yeah,
and rain, and that's what
I
was
am.
going on.
I live up in the Boston area now, but I grew up in the South. I grew up on the Gulf Coast of Mississippi, so hurricanes, pretty familiar thing for me for sure. And uh, they were strangely fun when I was a kid, but also scarier the more adult I got as I grew up. So I don't think I knew
Exactly. And as
enough when I was a
collectors,
kid.
we never want
Oh
to
God, yeah.
experience a hurricane. Yeah,
That's
I've got some friends who've taught me the proper like safeguards when the weather's bad. Buying those big baggies that you have the like Ziploc ends and things, and putting all your portfolios in them, and still trying to find a dry place to put them in. So yeah, hopefully I never have to experience that.
Yeah, no, I've seen some horrible, horrible stories of people that have lost stuff when their basement's flooded, and that's where all of my stuff is in the basement also. So I have stuff kind of sealed up and put away, or at least off the ground and raised. But oof, it's terrible. I hate that.
Exactly. Let's not think about all the bad
Yeah,
stuff that can
there you
happen.
go.
Let's think about all the good stuff that happens in the hobby. So, you were mentioning before we got started, you've never been to San Diego, is that correct?
That's correct. I've only been to a couple of shows. I've been to Boston Comic Con. I go to Terrificon pretty frequently, but that's it. I haven't really gone to a lot of shows. I was supposed to go to OAX this year, kind of life intervened, but I will be there next year in February. I'm headed to Baltimore this year for the first time, and maybe a couple of others in the end of the year. But I just never went to a lot of shows in my early life, and then eventually kind of got over the hump of getting out there and kind of wandering around and seeing everything, and it's a blast. It helped to one of the first shows I went to, I took my young son, and sort of watching his eyes as he was seeing people in costume and just all the comics and toys and everything. It was a blast, and now I try to make sure I go as much as I can.
Well, that's yeah, no, I get it. So, you know, we well, let's just dive into art collecting.
Sure.
Because clearly, you're like you talk about, you haven't gone to a lot of shows, so I'm kind of curious, where today do you look to pick up most of the art that you put into your collection?
Sure. Most of it's online purchases, either directly from the artists or through some of the dealers, the big guys that are on there. And CAF is obviously a place to reach out to folks. And when people post things for sale, I've got all the notifications set for my wish list, so I hop on those sometimes first thing in the morning when I wake up and see those notifications that have popped up. Love the Comic Art Live sales, what's twice a year, I think maybe, and just try to grab a few things there. But mostly it's the typical auction sites and dealer sites, and I just have all those notifications flagging to let me know when something pops up that I'm looking for.
Well, that's good. I mean, that's how I usually start my day with my want list notifications as well. I don't mind saying I'm sure there's a lot of people who probably do the exact same thing. I always regret the days when I skip checking my email in the morning, and by the time I finally get to check it out, I've missed out on a few things. Some of the dealers, as we all know, post a lot of their stuff overnight. Berkey is notorious for dropping things after midnight up until about 4 a.m. And those people on the West Coast, unlike us, have a distinct advantage because they're still awake while
Still awake, yeah. Yeah, no, there's nothing more frustrating than getting that notification and then following the link and it's already been snatched up or it's on hold by somebody. It kind of drives you a little crazy sometimes, but sometimes it works in your favor. You catch people at the right time, and it's a great tool, great resource.
Exactly. And I saw Anthony, who was at San Diego. I guess he's still tired. He's calling it a night already in the chat. And but we'll be doing a show with him tomorrow night. Good night, Anthony. Say hi to Sharon
Good
for
night,
me.
Anthony.
But well then, okay, well, let's talk about you and your collecting. So how long have you been collecting, and what was the inspiration for picking up your first piece of original art?
Yeah, I think I probably bought my first piece around 2005. It really coincides with, strangely enough, comic book podcasting. Right around then, when iTunes added podcasts to it, and I had an iPod, and I was just starting a new job, and I was searching around for podcasts of things that interested me, and of course, I did a search for comic books. I I stumbled onto the guys at Comic Geek Speak
Hmm.
and really started listening to them in the early days. And early on, they brought on a lot of artists, colorists, inkers, letters. I mean, all types of people from the industry because I think everybody was looking for something to listen to, right? Essentially, uh, radio show talking about comic books. And for those of us that didn't have a community of people in our lives, in our daily lives, to talk about this stuff, it was great just to listen to them. And one of the early pros that was on the show was Mike Norton.
Hmm.
And he was on their CGS forums posting art all the time. And at some point, his love and passion for Ted Cord, the Blue Beetle, he posted a piece of art on that forum and then eventually put it on sale, I think, through his website. And that was the first thing I bought. And I have to admit, I wasn't so much a Blue Beetle fan as I was a Mike Norton fan. And just the way that he engaged with the community of people that were listening to the podcast and really kind of threw himself into it, eventually started his own podcast and everything. I just really, I wanted to have that piece because it made me think about the podcast and how much it sort of filled this gap of not really having anybody to talk to about this
Hmm.
stuff and having someone to engage with through an online community. So I grabbed that first piece, which was him. I think I put it in one of the things for us to share tonight, but it's blue. Yeah, exactly. Blue Beetle kind of coming out of the bug, dangling down. And that was my first purchase ever. I guess directly from the artist as a result of that podcast and the forums where everybody was trading information about original art. It also kind of the podcast itself kind of opened my eyes. I didn't really realize that original art was out there to be bought. I hadn't gone to shows. I didn't really have a lot of direct engagement with any of this other than just buying comics online or buying from my local store. So that was kind of the first window into the fact that this was something you could buy. This was something that was out there that you could collect, and it kind of started me down that path for sure.
That's fun. So, I knew that this first piece was a more of a commission style piece versus a
Yep.
published piece, and certainly your collecting tastes have, gone heavily into the published side of things. But
Sure. Yeah.
but a lot of us find our way into the hobby through pieces like this, right? I mean, especially whether you're at a show or in your case a podcast where you get to know the creator, and then it's hard to walk away without like being a patron and picking up
Yeah.
something from them, even whether maybe at a show you can get away with a comic or a sign, maybe a remarked book or something, but this was art, and I think that's great. I think that getting to know the creators is kind of half the battle. I mean, a lot of times they don't necessarily draw the characters that you really appreciate,
Yeah.
but once you get to know them, I'm like you, you know, I I want to have something to remember them by, especially if I've had some, you know, important conversation with them or whatnot. Like you, just being able to have them talk about comics and their careers in the business and things that it's always good to have a memento from those moments.
Yeah, that's what it felt like. It was kind of encapsulating my experience with being a listener of the podcast and just learning about the industry. I mean, up until that point, I was just a reader. I collected comics my entire life. Would come in and out of it for periods of time, but it really collected since I was a kid. But never really thought anything about what went into the making of them.
Yeah. So would you say that you weren't someone that I mean, so when you were a comic reader, was it the art that got you? Was it the stories that got
It's
you? Or was it
it's definitely the
the mix?
art. I mean, I
Yeah.
mean, I guess like I love, and you can kind of see throughout my collection, I'm a big fan of team books. So I definitely like the concept of the different teams. I'm a huge DC fan, but when I followed somebody, it was because of the art. That was really what was driving me to the different things that I was collecting and what I was eventually purchasing in my art collection too.
So after the Mike Norton piece, then, you know, how does that, I mean, because that's again, that's you said 2008-ish, around
2005, 2005,
2005, so 20
2006. Yeah,
years ago. All
yeah.
right. So after that, I mean, what's the next piece? I mean, is it something that happens right away, or is do you find your way back to another situation where you needed to pick up another
I
artwork?
I think when I followed that, the next thing was really going out and getting my first commission, right? So I reached out online. I was a huge fan, and still a huge fan of the character Nightwing. Big, New Teen Titans fan and Nightwing. Loved Scott McDaniel's art. I found his website, found that he was taking commissions online. So I reached out to him through his website and put in a request for a commission, and he just kind of knocked it out of the park for me. Hit all the key things that I was looking for, and that was my next real thing of sort of directing. Yeah, that's the one exactly. Kind of directing of what I wanted in the art, and I'm obviously also a big fan of just pencils. Like I even in the older art that I collect, obviously it's almost impossible to get pencils only. But when I get a chance with commissions, I tend to ask for pencils only, and it's just a matter of preference. I like seeing all the sort of the work that the artist puts into making the final sort of finished product from their hands before it moves on to the inker.
Yeah, this is fun. I've always liked Scott's work as well. Uh, he used to, I think he used to go to the Pittsburgh show that I attended quite regularly in my early collecting days, and he always had a line. But fortunately, he was, you know, most of his published stuff was always DC, so I didn't buy anything. But
Yeah.
I always liked looking at his work because he just had a really fun style, and you can see it here too, right? That yeah, he's just got a very dynamic way of drawing figures, and it's a really great composition.
Yeah, I always thought when he was drawing Nightwing, he really played into the acrobatic nature of the character, and that's what I felt like a lot of that kind of comes through in this. You get kind of a stoic Batman at the top of this, the young sort of Tim Drake Robin there, but Dick Grayson kind of in mid sort of gymnastics mode there, acrobatic, aerial, uh, dynamo that he is, I guess, from his background.
So was this done? So it was done through his website,
Yep.
and it was a commission. And what was the time frame like for getting that back?
It was pretty quick, as I recall. He was, again, kind of really engaged via email on this. He sent me via email like an original copy of his first sort of pass at layouts to see if I was okay with it. I want to say it was no more than a couple of months tops between when I placed the order till when had it in my hands. So it was very quick turnaround on it.
Well, that's good. First experiences are important when you're
Yeah,
commissioning artists, right? So
yeah.
yeah,
They haven't
that's
haven't always been that quick, but I'm always pretty patient with commissions because I want them to put their heart into it, whatever it is they're doing, and I don't want it to be rushed or anything. And I'm happy for them to take their time and put their kind of artistic excellence into it.
well, that's a good first experience. So did you, I mean, when I first started collecting commissions and convention sketches were my thing, probably for the first 2 years at least. I don't think I got my first published piece until um, at least 2.5 years into collecting. Even the things I was buying from eBay at that time, in the very late '90s to the early 2000s were, convention style commissions, those sorts of things. What was the first piece of published art that you picked up, and when was that?
I was trying to remember. I'm pretty sure I can't recall the exact piece, but I know it was one of the Yvonne Race Green Lantern images from one of those issues. I was buying. I go through these phases where I get really interested in a particular artist, and I just start grabbing a lot of art from that particular artist, and I get like super focused on that. And that was one of the first ones. It's also, I think, eventually how I ended up at CAF, because his art dealer was selling that and other art through CAF, and it's kind of what drew me there to where I started seeing a lot of the other art and then all the other things that are present on CAF to look at. So it was kind of a window into both of those things. Um, but I went also, there's a huge kind of gap too. I got those first couple of pieces and then kind of went dormant for a while. I just wasn't I was still learning about what I could find out there and what were the things to do in the places that you could acquire stuff. I'm kind of glad that Anthony left a little bit early, because he's actually one of the first people that I tried to purchase something from, and I
Mhm.
made a woefully inadequate offer on something that he had listed. I mean, embarrassingly bad, because I really had no concept of how much some of this stuff, should, cost. And he had sort of something that's kind of like this incredible grail art for me, which is George Perez drew an 8-page insert into the Best of DC Digest for the Legion of Superheroes, and essentially they were who's who styles, like short little profiles of each character. And Anthony got his hands on the original art for that and posted it on his website, and it was, for sale, best offer. And I sent
So
it
he
off.
didn't have a price on it. So
There was no price on
all
it.
right,
No.
then there is no wrong price to throw.
Well, maybe not, but I sent him an email immediately, and I'm like, okay, here's what I think and he was great, because he didn't say you're a freaking idiot out of this at all. He said, this is kind of a higher end, piece of art. This is the price that I was kind of looking for, the range that I was looking for. If you're interested in that, we can talk about it. And it was way out of my league at that point. Um, but it was a real learning experience for me
Right,
of
because that's the
trying
first
to put,
published art where you're inquiring about, and of course,
right.
anything by Perez is going to be high even at that time,
Yeah.
as far as collecting goes. So
It was
yeah,
such a unique piece too, right? It was just one of the rare, at that time, one of the rare pieces of art he had done that wasn't cover art for the Legion. Had
mm,
all the character, all the active members were part of it. It was, as I recall, I think it's like 3 boards that have the individual shots of each character on it, maybe 6 per board or something. So I mean, I was in heaven at the possibility of getting it, and then way out of my league on where I needed to be for it. But again, when you talk about sort of kind of how you want your first experiences to be. He was great, and he, like I said, he didn't make me feel like I was an idiot at this, and actually helped educate me a little bit in the process. So it was pretty cool.
Yeah, well, I mean, so you that was a swing and a miss at your first, published original artwork
Yep.
for a marquee artist at that, at that stage. And I don't know the pieces. I imagine, did the pieces end up on Comic Art Fans at some point? I mean, have you ever seen
I
them
believe so. Yeah,
in the
I believe
wild?
so. I've forgotten whose collection they're in. I try not to look at them anymore because it just
Reminds
makes
you of
me
that first
jealous.
time.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
I get it. So, well, that's good. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, anytime there's a make offer on something, that's always a difficult position to be in, even if you are, a savvy collector and have ideas on prices, because you never want to go too high. But if it's something you really want, you have to like make an offer, but express sincerity on, the fact that you really would like to get it, even if you're not the highest offer that they might get.
Yeah.
Because yeah, it's there's a game to all that. But fortunately, most people do put prices on things.
Yeah.
I can't even say I've seen Anthony have a, best offer on something in a long time. I don't
I
that's
don't know
a
whether this was maybe he was selling it for someone else and he was
mm,
just posting it on his website or whatever was going on, because you're right, it's really unusual for his website for sure. But it's a pretty unusual piece also that was out there. So
well, there you go. That's good. But so okay, so after that, then what do you do? How do you find that first piece? Because you have Perez art in your CAF gallery.
yeah, yeah. So at that point, it's just hitting all the different dealer websites. So through Anthony's website, then I kind of became aware of Berkey's site, and then Will's site, and a few others. And then from there, it's just Google searches, trying to find out who's selling what on these things, and eventually just kind of picking and choosing based on what my budget would allow over time, just starting to grab the things that interested me, signing up for the notifications so that when dealer sites, posted something new to the site, I'd get flagged and get a message and go after it that
Mhm.
way. And then just trying to overcome the collector's urge for just buying things that I'm just buying. Like I really wanted to make sure that I was buying things that meant something to me. They either came from series, artists, characters that I cared about, and then trying to really whittle down to um, things that had some sort of meaning to me out of it.
Well, that's the way to go. But so, do you recall what the first published piece, or around the first published piece, might have been?
Yeah, like I said, I think it's got to be one of the Yvonne Race Green
Oh,
Lantern
that's right. You said
page.
even right,
Yeah,
and then we
yeah.
didn't. Were any of the pieces that you gave me
I
from?
didn't actually.
I didn't think so.
No, I didn't. I flagged one of the Titans Legion crossover pieces in there,
Mm,
and um, uh, one of the things that they're in my gallery, but sometimes the scans aren't so great because the early artwork that I was purchasing, I got it framed and I put it up on the wall, and I didn't think to scan them before I got them framed and put on the wall. So it makes for a bit of a challenge to get decent scans into the gallery. I'm still trying to figure that out a little bit. But I have them up in front of me, or to the side on the different walls around my office, so that I can see some of those. But
well,
I've stopped
that's
framing
a
things for
that's a
sure.
common thing for us to, for all of us to do. I framed things early on as well that I didn't have a scan of, or I had a bad digital photo of, and then after I bought a scanner, like, it was
Yeah,
cut the paper in the back to actually get the art out of it so I could properly scan it. Yeah, I mean, I think many of us have done that, especially that, if you framed it, I guarantee you there's not one person out there who's framed a piece of art but forgot to get a good scan or photograph of it before they
yeah.
did it.
Yeah, that was a real another swing and a miss on my part for sure of not getting those beforehand. I think some point I will take them off the wall and do exactly what you said and get a decent scan of them and get them back up. But now it's to the point where it's like there's not enough wall space for the collection, and I kind of don't want it up there. I prefer to actually be able to kind of take it out of the portfolio and look at it and flip it around and see the other side and see maybe what they've doodled or sketched on the back of it as warm up before they were working on it, or the publisher stamp on it. I mean, just all these things that sort of tie it to this real thing that it is, that eventually it became a comic page for somebody, you know?
Right. Yeah, there's definitely something fun about being able to handle the artwork, right? I think
Yeah.
if I were to frame anything today, and I haven't framed an artwork probably in over 10 years, would probably be like a commission style piece, something that I maybe had a hand in making that I don't really feel the necessarily need to handle it. But when you're talking about you know, artworks that were done in the 60s, 70s, or 80s, those are always just so fun to be able to hold in your hand and look at, like you said, flip it over, read the margins, see all the, see things up close that you might not be able to see otherwise. I mean, I picked up a page at San Diego this past weekend, and it's been a while since I picked up something from the early 80s, but it's just so fun, to hold
Yeah.
that piece of Bristol in your hand, and it's a little bit yellowed. I could see a little smudge in the ink
It's
in one of
much.
the corners, right? And you know what? I haven't even looked at the back of it yet, so I don't even know if there's anything on it. But there's just something wonderful about holding a piece of history, right? I mean, something from the early 80s is over 40 years old,
Yeah.
and if you were to frame it, put it on the wall, that's it. Unless you're going to, swap it out. So yeah, I think commissions would probably be the main thing that I could see, hanging, or framing again in the future. But yeah, handling the art is just so much. It's part of owning it, right?
Yeah.
It's a unique opportunity to hold something that your favorite creator, you know, touched and used and
Right.
made a piece of art on it that ended up in a comic book. So no, yeah, it's fun though. Presenting art. I mean, we've talked about hanging art and things on the channel before, but it is something. It's difficult to make choices on those things. But so
Absolutely.
why don't we, I mentioned Perez, and I know that I'm looking at your spreadsheet, so I use that as my guidepost for the order on the pieces that we were going to show. So we have a Perez piece next, and it's a as Mike Berkey would say, it's a doozy of a piece. So tell me a bit about this one, because this when was this added into your CAF? It was added about 5 years ago. So
Yeah.
is that when you picked it up, or was it just when you had the opportunity to scan it?
I think it was probably a year or so after I acquired it. It was when I got a decent scanner, to do sort of large scale images, and get it scanned and get it up there. Yeah, this was one that, when it came available at the dealer's website, I wasn't going to miss the target on buying this one, thankfully. Yeah, I mean, to me, again, sort of a callback to the story that I loved, the idea that even though as a big DC fan, I knew the story behind the first attempt at doing a JLA Avengers story and how much Perez had worked to get that done. And then when they finally made it happen, I was there every Wednesday when the issue came out to see it. And then when this piece of artwork came available, I'm like, I have to have that. I mean, classic Perez floating heads, but in this case, you've got all the top tier DC and Marvel characters kind of captured on the cover of this thing. It's just it's amazing, and to have, for me, to have the pencils only, so that I mean, it's just the raw Perez art. It was an amazing get for me.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's gorgeous. I was actually trying to Google to see how it was published. So it looks like
Yeah.
it might have had a couple different ways in which it was published. Like, I mean, there's maybe a digitally colored version and
Yeah, I mean,
whatnot.
there's, yeah, the colored version is on so it was, at the point in time, DC was doing absolute editions, but this couldn't be an absolute because it was kind of co-published with Marvel.
Hmm.
So it exists in the absolute size. And this book is the book that has all the back matter that comes with the actual series proper. That's part of it. So it's a slipcase that has two oversized books, and this is the companion book that's in there, the second book that comes behind the uh, the story itself. And yes, and it's fully colored on the dust jacket of that book in that set.
Wow. No, well, it's a beautiful image. Obviously, anything that Perez did, always impressed. And like you said, the journey to get to the final Avengers JLA storyline was a long one. I remember, like you said, Perez worked on the first pass at it that kind of fell apart. I remember pages from that, attempt, were on the market for a few
Yeah,
times, and they're still out there. I don't know who has them, but it was a momentous thing, right? When it finally happened, you never thought you'd live to see the day when Marvel and DC could allow for something like that to happen for everybody, who are fans of both teams. But it was great. Story was pretty good, and I'm sure we all know that Perez poured his heart and soul into that book.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, the realization of something that he had been working on for, I think, probably a decade in total, from when he first started to try to do it till when it eventually got done. It's pretty amazing.
Well, congrats on this. I mean,
Thank you.
seeing Perez pure pencils on something like this is absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, it's definitely a highlight of my collection, no doubt about it.
So, this one might be one where you frame it because you can look at it every day. I mean,
I,
it's that special.
yeah, I'm so afraid that something would happen to it in the framing that I just can't imagine. I keep telling myself what I'm gonna do is in my office get some sort of shelf to where I can just put pieces on it and then just kind of rotate it based on what I'm interested in looking at for periods of time.
Mhm.
And I just haven't gotten around. It's on the list of those to dos that I just haven't done yet.
Right. Well, I understand that feeling. Having to leave the art with a framer is, you know, I, I do think when you sign the agreement, there's a waiver in there of some kind.
Oh yeah,
It,
for
you know,
sure.
I don't know how well they insure stuff while it's out of your hands. Some probably do. Probably, I'm sure any custom framer would, but
Yeah.
um, yeah. So I'm trying to put the links into the chat for everybody as well, so you can look at the pieces while we show them. And if you're there and you're looking at them and you want to leave a comment, feel free to do that. Jim would not, nor would I begrudge you for taking the opportunity to give a thumbs up, a like on any of the pieces, or leave a comment or two.
Much appreciated. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's keep looking at art
Sure.
because this next one, is just spectacular as well. I mean, come on, this is a crisis page from issue 9, and
Right.
Perez pencils, Ordway inks, and this is awesome. I mean, just
Y-
looking at it, I love the lettering on it, but I mean, it's just Perez magic across the board with the layout. Um, my goodness, I mean, just looking at it again, it's amazing.
Yeah. And for me, this is the series, of it's right in this sort of sweet spot of I'm 14, 15 years old. Crisis is coming out. Um, all the heroes, all the villains. Just one of my absolute favorite artists. Um, brought in all the things that I love about the DC universe, the multiverse, all of these things. Such a sort of history to this sort of generation of heroes, right? That I really love about it. And when there was a shot at getting this page, and it happens to be, oh, we're going to eliminate a Luthor from the multiverse, I'm like, yeah, okay, we're definitely gonna get that one. And uh, very lucky to get my hands on this page. It's if the Avengers JLA compendium cover is one, this is easily a close second behind it.
Right, and there's no stats on here? It's all hand drawn? I can never tell.
I believe actually the Brainiac heads one of them is a stat, maybe two of them are stats. I'd have to go back and look. That's another one that's kind of safely protected and put away. So I haven't looked at it in a little while, but I'm pretty sure one or two of the heads are stats.
Yeah, I guess if I look really close, I'm zooming in on it now since I downloaded all the images. I guess maybe you're right. Maybe two of them are. But
Yeah.
either way, it's still that's typically all of them but one would be, right? So no, that's part of the charm of this page. Wow. All right. Let's see here. I want to just keep looking at artwork now. So here we have another page from this one's from JLA Avengers issue
Yeah.
3. So you get an interior page here. All Perez on this one.
Yeah. So this one is kind of interesting. It's one of the few occasions in the story where you get a hero swapped into the other team, which was kind of interesting. You have Hawkeye that's um, drawn Black Canary's attention away from Green Arrow. It's kind of an interesting mix of things there. But another just sort of great JLA Avengers page by Perez.
Now, I didn't go through your entire gallery, but do you have other pages from this storyline?
Now, this is the only one that I have so far. I say so far.
Because you're always looking, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. This is one of those that it's like you'd be hard pressed to find like a bad page. Like, is there any such thing? But a page that wouldn't be interesting from this. But I do have a lot of Perez art in my collection just because I'm such a huge fan. And, when it comes to following him, I follow almost anything that he's been on. So,
Well, I get that. I mean, he was, and everybody knows it in the chat and who watched the shows. I mean, Perez was one of those few artists that would get me to buy DC books, just because I loved his
yeah,
work. Right? It was hard to kind of pass up. I'd follow George's stories anywhere. That just because. Um, but yeah,
yeah.
no, this is a good one. But the thing that's tricky is these pages don't come up that often. Certainly not a public auction. I mean, you could probably pry them from a collector, but you don't really see those in a heritage auction, for instance, or Comic Link. They don't come up too often.
Yeah, they're pretty tightly held on to by the people that have them, and I totally understand it because it's hard for me to imagine ever parting with these myself. I get it, and I guess I'm the flip side of it because he's the type of artist that got me to read Marvel and uh, collect Avengers that he drew. So being in the firmly entrenched in a lot of the DC comic camp, I bought Avengers because of him.
Steve Mussolino has a good question. He's curious if people contact you through your CAF gallery now that they have an idea of the pieces you collect. I mean, have you ever been offered something through the site that you actually took advantage of the fact that it was offered to you?
Yeah, so it definitely have been offered a few times. I can think of maybe one occasion that I've actually taken someone up on that offer.
Hmm.
Trying to think of exactly which one it was, but um, it's escaping me right now. But yeah, I mean, I'm always open to that, and sometimes it's just a matter of timing. Like people make me aware of sort of great opportunities that are out there. They're trying to flip some pages from their collection because they're trying to get something else, trying to roll it into another purchase of their own. And sometimes the timing just doesn't work out, and for
Hmm.
me. But I don't think anyone's come at me with like an absolute just outlandish, like, hey, you might be interested in this. And it's like, what? It's never, it's pretty clear kind of what my tastes are. And I think people are pretty good about making those offers. So,
Right. I get a few of those emails a year as well. People
yeah.
curious, but it's part of what CAF is good for in a way. Being able to see what understand what certain collectors like, and then being able to offer them stuff. I mean, there's always somebody wanting to move something, and it's better to know than to not be aware of it,
Right.
even if you're not interested.
Yeah.
I don't and it's not and I should remind everybody, it's not bad form not to reply.
Yeah.
You're not interested. If you don't get a reply, they probably know. They're emailing probably 5 or 10 people or more.
Yeah.
So yeah, they don't. I'm sure they don't expect replies from everybody. They know that you're not interested if you don't.
Yeah. But I think, on the flip side of it, when I've reached out to people, they've all been great. I mean, everybody replies.
Hmm.
I feel like I've been very lucky. It's a great community, I think, of people. Um, at least, everybody that I've kind of engaged with, felt like I've had really good conversations with them, even if it didn't turn out the way that I wanted it to. It was just
Hmm.
kind of nice to get to know them and where they are with their collections too. So,
Yeah, well, I think anybody using CAF in that way is going to be more, quick to reply, or they will reply because that's part of you build a reputation on CAF through those
probably,
sorts of things. Whether they're, there's no like, scoring system or something that lets people know that oh yeah, this guy replies to every email. But you learn, right? I mean, if you email Will Gabrielle, you can pretty much expect that Will's going to get back to you pretty quickly. I mean, he always has. I mean,
yeah,
whether I've emailed him through the site or directly or whatnot. I mean, there's just certain people, people, that you can count on. And then those are
yeah,
the people you tend to go back to for with other questions or purchase inquiries, those sorts of things. And if they ever want something from you, you know what I mean. It's just kind of how you build, your reputation through,
yeah,
with CAF for the hobby.
yeah. Absolutely agree. Yeah.
Marcus wants to know if anyone's bought a Dark Knight page off of CAF recently. Well, not any cheap ones, that's for sure, Marcus. But I don't think anything since that very, very, big six-figure sale, as you know. But thank you for asking. Nick Force says, "Rate my cat 5 stars like an Uber." That's there. There's one way, you know. Well, there's that is kind of funny, Nick. I can't say that we would ever have a rating system where you get to rate other collectors like that, but hey, I mean, it's not unheard of coming up with stuff like that. I think that what is it? 2D Galleries has some kind of I can't even what they call it. Like you. It's like a it's not that's a reputation. I can't remember what they call it. Referral or something, or you acknowledge this collector is a good collector kind of thing, and it has a score or something like that. They've done that for a while. So yeah, but let's keep looking at art, shall we,
Sure.
Jim? Let's see.
Yep.
Well, now I probably lost. Oh no, I know what the next piece is because this is kind of cool. This is a Byrne layouts, but Perez inks on an Action Comics 600 page. And one of the cool things that I'll just say before you talk about this art is that when Byrne and I followed Byrne over to DC when he was doing these. What I thought was really neat about the books that he worked on was whom he got to ink a lot of those because it wasn't always obviously Perez. He had Giordano inking stuff. He had a lot of inkers that were historically significant working on his titles that he tackled, and I thought that was pretty cool. I mean, knowing John Byrne, I'm sure he had full authority on whom he got to work with in most cases, and I thought it was just a wonderful approach that he worked with inkers on books and titles that were already synonymous with those titles in some cases. Um, so go ahead, tell me why this piece is special to you.
Um, well, a couple of reasons. First of all, both of the artists that I absolutely love. I have a number of Byrne pieces also. I became a Byrne fan when he came over to DC. Um, uh, I actually had a chance to meet him at one of the Boston Comic Cons. I had him sign my copy of Action 600, the comic, not the art. I didn't own the art at that point in time, and it was really kind of an interesting experience because you read about him online, but then when I talked to him, he was super nice. He had a lot of sort of comments about this issue and working with Perez, having someone of Perez's stature kind of ink him in this, and all amazing, just sort of behind the scenes comments about this. It was a really great experience. And then when this page went on the market, and I think I may have gotten this through Heritage. I don't honestly recall how I got it, but I think it was Heritage to have this page that has all the key players in the issue on the page, autographed by both of the artists here, it was just I couldn't really pass it up. Um, and I remember the issue so fondly. I remember my sort of engagement with Byrne fondly, and the art is just gorgeous combination of both of their styles. So
So what year was that when you got to see John Byrne at a show?
uh, that's a good question. Definitely pre-pandemic, I think. So maybe somewhere between 2015 and 2020. I honestly, I'd have to go back and look. I can't recall.
Cool. I mean, I can say that I don't think I've seen him. I've only seen him twice at shows. So once was at a New York Comic Con, and I don't even remember if I saw him. I might have been near the booth where he was, but before that, it was like a Mid Ohio Con in the
Yeah.
late '80s or something. He's a hard guy to get out to shows, obviously. So that's just amazing that you not only got to see him and get him to sign a book, and and have him at least make a comment on working with Perez as well on that. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I remember, he had kind of limited windows of signing opportunities at his booth, and I made a beeline to get in the front of that line when the doors opened. And he really was kind of gracious with everybody and, took time to talk to them, signed, as many things as people had with them, and, it was a great experience, so.
Well, Byrne Superman published pages are hard to come by and always in demand. Whether they're from the new series he started or something from Action Comics. I mean, there's always somebody who wants one, or wants more. I can
Yeah,
say that. I mean, I'd even enjoy having one because they are pretty awesome, and his storylines were really cool. I mean,
yeah.
he just like everything he did for Marvel. Whenever he worked on a DC book, he just kind of went all out, and but always with a tip of the cap to the past and bringing in the right villains and stuff. I mean, that's part of what I think what everybody loved about John's approach to the books he wrote and drew.
Yeah, I mean, the post-crisis revamp of Superman, even though I'd been a DC fan the entire time, I hadn't really read Superman. It just wasn't one of those things that caught my attention. But when he went on the series, and then of course was drawing Action Comics also as sort of the team up book that replaced DC Comics Presents. It was just I was in heaven. Just it was amazing, that art and all the freedom I think they gave him to just do what he wanted to do inside of the DC universe with all the characters was just it was a real pleasure to watch that happen.
Well, we're going to move and take a look at another piece that was inked by Perez, but penciled by Garcia Lopez. This is from
Yeah.
DC Special, Return of Donna Troy, issue 3.
So this is actually, I think, one of the few pages that I've ever picked up at a convention, published art at a convention. This was from Terrificon. I want to say 2 or 3 years back. He's at least as many times as I've been to Terrificon. Um, Jose Luis Garcia Lopez has been at every one of them I've been to, and I think I've had a chance to kind of engage with him each time. I think the first time I saw him there, I had a stack of Atari Force issues that I had from my collection as a kid that he autographed. And he's such a soft spoken but kind man, and he's so such a foundation of kind of my love of DC Comics, because he was part of almost all the promotional material. If you had, whatever superhero sheets and pillowcases and stuff, you likely had a Garcia Lopez art that was on there. So he's someone whose art I always loved. And then in this series, where you get a chance to have Perez inking him, um, I was at his booth dropping in a ticket, trying to win a slot at getting a convention sketch from him. And I'm thumbing through a binder of his art. And I believe this was from his personal collection that he was selling there. I I had to take a lap around the artist alley where he was and think about it because it was a pretty hefty price on it, but I worked out something for paying it off over a little bit of time. And I'm like, when am I going to get a chance to get something like this? And it's an amazing piece of art, just tracking on Donna Troy kind of moving across the double page spread. It's got all the hallmarks of like the kind of crazy backgrounds and level of detail that you'd expect from both him and Perez. I just I, I couldn't resist. Had to get it.
Oh yeah, I mean this is one heck of a page design, isn't it? Just breaking the panel borders all over the place with ancillary characters to the main characters. I mean, there's just something fun in terms of the layout, almost with every panel. You know, the
Yep.
first two panels don't need to be two panels; could be one panel, but you know, it's two panels to kind of show the her jumping through the scene, and yeah, no, this is great, and yeah, I, I get sometimes wrestling with, should I or shouldn't I? But at the end of the day, I think he made the right choice. This is just a fantastic piece.
Yeah, it's something that I didn't think because it was, I think coming from his collection, it's like this is never someone's going to have it and it's never going to be back out there again. You'll never see this out there again if I didn't do it then too. So, um, and it's just it's beautiful. And again, if I ever get that display shelf up in my office, this will be one of the first pieces that goes up there simply because of the size of it and just you can look at this thing for hours on end and see another level of detail that you didn't catch when you first started looking at it. It's amazing.
Yeah, and this is a great reminder that Perez could ink anybody
Yeah.
and make it look fantastic.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is a good one. But we have the next piece is I believe it's all Garcia Lopez. So let's go switch to that a little bit more earlier in his career. This is from DC Comics Presents issue 3, and this is from
Yeah.
1978.
Yeah, you can see one. I at this point in time when I acquired this piece, I didn't have a decent scanner, so I just took the image from the auction site. But this is one of the earliest comics I remember ever purchasing. Um, I whether it was with my allowance money or whatever, this comic, I loved the team up books, right? So Brave and the Bold with Batman and a guest star, or DC Comics Presents with Superman and a guest star. I loved those because it was like every issue you get somebody new. And for me, I'm still a kid. I didn't know who Adam Strange was. I had no clue. It was just a guy with a rocket pack that was on the cover of it. But it's a great story. It's got a ton of just kind of science fiction elements to it. I have a couple of other pieces from this issue in my collection because the issue itself means so much to me. Um, but what a great shot of one flying down, one flying up. It's just, and it's a great little story that's all tied up in one issue. You know, it's pretty, comics of the '80s, just or I guess late '70s here. Just a different mentality, but great story.
Yeah, it's a beautiful title page, that's for sure. Just uh but those a lot of those DC Comics Present books were like that. Self-contained stories,
Yeah.
great team ups. But yeah, no, this is a really nice piece, and everything is hand lettered as well, right? Little
That's right. Yeah,
yeah.
you can kind of see on the scan, the paste ups, right? So their logos are pasted on the
Hmm.
created by Jerry Siegel. Joe Schuster is pasted on, but then hand lettered the rest of it, and then all the Indicia stuff is pasted on. But it's just kind of beautiful to look at it.
And you even got some Zipatone on there.
Yep.
On the Superman side.
Yep.
Oh shoot, I didn't put the link in the chat. Let me throw that in there. There we go.
Yeah, I saw somebody in the chat, oh, #1 Marvel fan, talking about the Adam Strange McFarlane figure. Yeah, I grabbed that too. It's kind of a cool figure, and there are some characters that just have like a great costume, and that's one of them. I just think it's an awesome costume. So,
Agreed. Yeah. And you actually have another page from that book here that we can show. So this is all Garcia Lopez again.
yeah, this is like a really recent acquisition for me, and um, this gets to a little bit of the sort of science fiction aspect of it. If I recall correctly, the two planets. So Adam Strange is sort of, he's from Earth, but the protector of Ran, and the planets flipped, and because one of them has Ran has three suns and Earth only has one. When Ran came into the single sun, stuff started growing out of control, and there was mist and all kinds of things. So what else do you do? Superman makes three sort of magnifying glasses and turns one sun into three and returns everything to normal. It's like just science fiction kind of craziness all wrapped up in a couple of panels. It's pretty amazing.
Very nice. So you're not a one and done collector. If you could get another page from this story, would you, and, if the right one
This
came along, would you pick up another one?
I do actually have a third one to this one, and I would keep getting them. Yeah, and it's just it there's just so much significance behind this issue itself that makes me want to keep coming back for more on this one. I don't do it often, but this is one where it's like, yeah, I probably would keep going.
So everybody's heard that now. If you have a page from DC Comics Presents issue 3, Jim is always open to letting him know that there's a page available if and when
I
that happens.
I'm open and available. Yes.
Oh man, let's see. This was a pretty cool. And I didn't put the link in there for that one, but people can find it. So this is All Star Squadron,
Yeah.
Ordway pencils and Macklin inks on this one from issue 26. It's got a little zip on it, but a fun page layout. Really, I love the little balloons in the corners, especially on those bottom two panels. I mean, that's fun, really fun.
Yeah.
Mechanism for them, and also the top corners on that panel too.
Yeah, and this is kind of for me another one of those sort of strong memory. Like I I love time travel stories. That's kind of my sort of weakness, sucker weakness for a lot of comic stories and science fiction just in general. And this is sort of Infinity Inc., who was at the time kind of present day offspring of the Justice Society, somehow ended up back in World War II with the All Star Squadron and the younger version, the younger versions of the Justice Society also. So this is kind of how this all came to happen before they got their own series, and kind of became this next generation of the Justice Society in the modern day. Love the Ordway art for sure. He's someone who get a chance to interact with at Terrificon a lot. That's one of the uh, shows that he's really involved in, and love his art across the board on things. But this was a great sort of uh, origin story a bit for Infinity Inc., or at least how did they end up in the past. So pretty cool.
Yeah, no, I like this one a lot, and I know on the next one, it's another Ordway page, inked by Macklin as well. Now, did you pick these up at the same time, or is there a period between pickups? Because like you said, Ordway's art, you've always liked it. I think Ordway has a very classic style, and something that I always appreciate. It's like when I look at like Al Milgrom art, I always think of the late 70s into the 80s, and when I look at Ordway, I kind of feel like that same vibe. It kind of just is a great house artist.
Yeah, I mean, really, really clean art style. Definitely when you see him drawing something in the DC universe, you kind of you think Earth 2, you think World War II, you think a lot of the classic characters and things like that. Um, so this, I definitely got it a separate time from the All-Star Squadron page. This was a separate sort of purchase. I think this was off of an auction site when I got it. This is one of the sort of key elements of the initial run in Infinity Inc. So the story that the first, I want to say 7, 8, yeah, maybe 7 or 8 issues, something like that, of Infinity Inc., which kind of introduces the team and how did we get here and all of this, and Ordway's art and this double page spread with the Ultra Humanite kind of looming over them, and all the key players of Infinity and the JSA in it. Just great action, great shot for a double page spread to kind of open the book.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I love the round inset panels, I
Yeah,
guess, to kind of
right.
break up the fight, which doesn't have panels at all. He's like using his shoulders to kind of define areas, for the story. I
Yeah.
just think this is a really cool, fun page.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of some great design elements in it. It's got a few things like I think all of those issues started off with some quote. Then you can see that right under the Green Lantern Obsidian and Jade panel there that was in it. I think it was one of the things that Roy Thomas was doing in all of these issues, and everyone in the um, the spread is really kind of paired up with their opposite, right? So you've got the relationships between the different generations: Superman and Power Girl, Huntress and Robin, the Green Lantern family, sort of there, Hawkman, Feather, Wonder Woman and her offspring Fury. Yeah, I mean it's just kind of amazing stuff there.
Now you do have another Infinity Inc. page here. This was from issue 7, so the next one here is from issue 8, I believe. Just an interior. Again, Ordway pencils with the Zuniga's inks on this one.
Yeah. This one for me, not only was there the Ordway and Infinity Inc. connection, but this is also one of those early first monitor appearance when the Crisis on Infinite Earths was happening. So in the year or so running up to the start of the series, um, that satellite that's in the third panel from the top starts showing up in almost every series, and this um, guy sitting in a chair, which you can't really see anything of, and his assistant Lila start popping up, kind of setting you up for what's about to happen a year or so from this point, that there's something big brewing in the DC universe. So this is kind of an interesting crossover with that series,
Very
and
nice.
still has the Ultra Humanite in it, which uh, ape with a human brain transplanted into it. How can you pass that up?
Well, it's those eight books that kept me, that made it hard for me to understand DC. But I'm learning, Jim. I am learning, and it does when I see pages like this, and the last one, it makes me want to read DC. I have
Yeah,
to say. Uh, but yeah, clearly, and especially when you see when we show this page and you see Marcus shout "Crisis Satellite" and Derek say "Harbinger." You know
yeah,
what I mean? It's
yeah,
these things do inspire a sense of fun and nostalgia for those who remember reading them, right? And I think that
yeah,
that's always cool. So yeah, yeah, really nice. Now from here we are kind of shifting gears a little bit, at least in terms of the artist teams. I know that you're a fan of both the Legion and Giffen, and so this is from Legion of Superheroes 289, and it's Giffen pencils with Bruce Patterson inks. And I see this page and I remember the cover on this book because it was Giffen actually, he's the one of the well, after Perez and Byrne, is the only artist whose work I saw in DC books that made me want to buy them.
oh
And
wow,
it was partially from the covers. I didn't
yeah,
know anything about Legion, but I loved his art. and this is probably the only other book that I ever picked up, was Legion while Giffen was working on it. So yeah, this is just a great page. The layout's fantastic.
Yeah.
Uh, I mean, looking at it now. I mean, it's phenomenal.
Yeah.
I can't even. Giffen was such a great illustrator and storyteller, and to own anything from his Legion run is great. And I know you have a few.
Yeah. I mean, I I think about the first comic that I can recall buying. It was a Legion of Superheroes issue. I love time travel. I loved the team books. I was reading Legion, but when we got into the sort of Levitz coming back on it, Giffen really cementing as the artist on it, and this is the one. I think it's A Cold and Lonely Corner of Hell is the cover of this.
Hmm.
You've got a bunch of the Legionnaires trapped on a planet, and um, emotions start flying. But it's just a great Giffen art, and um, yeah, just an amazing piece for me.
Right. I mean, that cover, the characters were so small on it. It was all about being isolated, right? And
That's
yet
right.
still, and that was probably one of the first books, from I don't know when his run started, but I remember seeing that cover and it just made an impression on me, a lot like when I first saw like Paul Smith X-Men artwork and the covers. I mean, there was just something beautiful about the way the art was drawn, and yeah, and I can't, it puts story ahead of anything else. But yeah, and there you go. You're right, Marcus. The kiss was momentarily broken.
Blocked. Yeah, bad timing, right? But I mean, I
Right.
guess good. I mean, you don't want to break up a marriage there. Yeah, so
Exactly.
it's well timed. But yeah, I think Giffen had definitely been on for at least a few issues before that, but he's
Okay.
really hitting his stride here, and you're only maybe an issue or so away from Great Darkness Saga, which is where it's like, okay, this is Giffen's just balls to the wall. Every character in that universe is going to be part of this. It was just an amazing story. Yeah. And one of my favorites. And yeah, in the list of other items, I'm a sucker for anybody that wants to part with a Great Darkness Saga page. I'm here for you,
Oh
if I
yeah.
can be. Yeah.
The storylines were fantastic. The covers were incredible. I mean,
Yeah.
you couldn't not. And maybe it was that, and I ended up going back and buying issues because I just remember when those were coming out that they captured your attention. Whereas, prior to that, if I was at the
Yeah.
drugstore or wherever I was buying my comics at that time, it was easy for me to like look past the DC books, the section on the shelves that they were having. But those covers were they were vibrant, action packed, had tons of characters on them. Just didn't seem right, for a comic book at all. And yeah, um,
It's interesting because I think there's a lot of people that are like scared to read the Legion, right? There's too much history, there's too many reboots, too many things. But as a kid, I loved it, and it started me on this kind of treasure hunt for all these issues, going back through back issues, and you had those lovely editor notes, right, that would tell you,
mhm.
to refer back to that previous issue and go digging through trying to find those previous issues, which would then send you off after another. It is part of what helped me kind of really become a comic collector a little bit, of chasing special issues or something to complete the storyline or to understand every little nuance into the story. So it's kind of cool. And um, I own most of the Legion issues from those original runs. Now, I at some point stopped, but certainly all of the things that got us through the Giffen era and everything that led up to it, I may have some crappy copies of them, but I definitely have copies of them as part of my collection. I made sure I went after all those. So
Well, I'm gonna have to go back and reread the Giffen
yeah.
era for sure. Yeah, it's been a long time. I mean, I think the last time I read them was, gosh, at least 20 years ago. So it's been a long
Oh, wow.
time. I need to revisit it.
You should absolutely.
Now, this is Giffen again, of course, and Malstead, who I think was probably whose inks I like the most over Keith's pencils. I don't know why, but this is
Yeah.
from issue 290, again from or is that 290? Or am I in the wrong one? Am I? No, I'm in.
No, I think you're right. I
Okay.
think you're right. Yeah. And this is where you're literally kicking off the Great Darkness saga. So, um, uh, big sort of, you start to find out that um, all these mystical um, uh, items in the DC universe have sort of been stolen. They're being taken by whoever the master is of the Great Darkness saga. Um, and he's stealing all these things. So now the Legion is gone to protect the ones that they're aware of to keep them from being sort of gobbled up by the mysterious character at this point. So on the page, right, you get you get one of those editor notes that pops up there in the top panel of it to direct you back to a comic that's probably minimally 20 years old at that point in time, wherever the story's tying to it. And great overhead shot of them. You're right. I do kind of love the Malstead inks over Giffen. It's one of my favorite combinations through this period of time for sure. And just kind of science fiction craziness in some of those panels too. It's beautiful.
Yeah, no, agreed. I'm looking at yeah, this one I color corrected this one a little bit. That's why I wasn't sure if I was what I was looking at. I know the image up on the website's a little bit more yellow.
It's
I was like,
yellowed. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. And I was like, I can't see it very well when it's yellow, so I changed it to black and white so I could see it better. But no, this is just it's a beautiful page.
Yeah.
And you know, and I guess you could say an editor's work, you know, they're worth their weight in gold if they can go back and reference you know, Legion books from 20 years previous to kind of carry over storylines and things. I mean, but you're right, those are the things that kind of helped us as readers and early comic book collectors go back and try to find issues to understand, you know, the basis for storylines you're reading at that point in time. I mean, you know, it was for me in the early to mid 80s is about when I first started going to, you know, there was a comic book store in Cleveland that I could sometimes get my parents to drive me to, and I did. I think I probably utilized a lot of those editors' notes to go pick up back issues from time to time because I wanted to know what I'd missed out on.
Right, right, yeah. Yeah, I mean, to me, that was half the fun, and I think now we've gotten away with we don't want people to have to. I don't know, it goes both ways. There are a lot of people who write that if you know the back history, it definitely enhances what you're reading, and I think other people who are trying, and reasonably so, trying to welcome in new readers and not burden them with a bunch of backstory. You know, just here's the story of the day. And I get both approaches, but I definitely like the one that sends you on the treasure hunt. That was a big thing for me as a kid, for sure.
Yeah, I mean they're referencing a couple issues here, Adventure Comics 365 and 66. Oh man. Let me see where I think I know where we're going to next on here. So let me switch over to the next one. We have another Giffen page, of course, and this one's from issue 293, Malstead
Yep,
Inc. again. Now, what's is that like an overlay on this one? I think if I'm looking at
it
the
is.
scan right.
It is, yeah. So the in that second panel, the talking head that's
Mhm.
essentially a transmission, I think that's what's on the overlay. So that's actually that sort of five-sided overlay that sort of drops down on the page. Yeah.
Very cool. And but I assume all of the splatter effects down there in the what this third and fourth panels, that's all done traditionally.
I think so. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. And then that last panel. Yeah, anybody who's a Legion fan from this era wants this page because of that.
Yeah. Yeah, really, really cool shot there. And at this point, and I will admit, at this point, I didn't know who these people were. Like I wasn't pulling the pieces together. I was probably 10 or 11 years old. So I didn't understand everything that was happening here. I didn't get who these characters were likely to be until they finally just kind of spelled it out for you. I was still a kid. And now I go back and read it and it's like, oh yeah, of course. I mean, I get it, but totally surprised by the outcome of this at the time. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's great. And yeah, Matt said onion skin. It definitely looks like vellum. But yeah, it's a beautiful page. And you're making, and there's a few collectors who I know are very jealous not to own this one. But yeah, fantastic piece. Oh, now here, I got to put the link in the chat. That's why some people can go over there and leave a comment or a thumbs up on these pages. I'm just going to throw it in there right now. Wow. Now, next up, let's see here. So this one's this is from Superboy and the Legion of Superheroes, James Sherman pencils and Bob Wyacek inks.
Yeah. So Infinite Man, very interesting character in the series, comes back post-crisis also to help explain how the Legion kind of weathered the storm a little bit following this, but just an amazing splash. One of the things that I loved about this sort of age of the Legion was a lot of the James Sherman pencils and just amazing artists, I thought. And um, this was a great page from this issue for sure.
It's fun to have Bob's inks on this one too.
Yeah.
I've always liked his work. And yeah, there is Zipatone on this one too. That's it's very creatively added to make some good effect on the character.
Right there in the arms and shoulders, yeah.
Wow. Nicely done by Mr. Sherman and Wyacek on that one. Marcus, I'm not asking too much of you in the chat. You know that. You can comment. If anybody can comment and listen to a show at the same time, it's you, Marcus. Oh man, yeah. Let's see here. Where would we go from here? Let's see. Next piece is another Legion, a superheroes page. This is from the 2004 series, issue 46. It's John Livesey inks over Francis Manipul's pencils.
Yeah, I think for me, one of my favorite Legion artists, Manipul, and his run on this. Love this page in particular. Two of my favorite characters on there, both Lightning Lad and Ultra Boy. I think it probably is the only Manipul art that maybe I have one other page of this, but I really loved this run on the Legion and his art. And there was somewhere in this period of time where you also had Jim Shooter come back to the book and a whole series of things. I mean, it's kind of interesting times for the Legion series. But I just loved Manipul's style. I loved his art on the Flash. I loved when he did some of the Justice League stuff, but this Legion art was one of my favorite periods.
Yeah, and it's this is one of the first pages, if not the first page, that does not have the word balloons on the page.
Yeah, that's right.
And there's nothing wrong with that, of course. Yeah, all modern art, well, most modern art doesn't have it, but yeah, after seeing all those pages leading up to this one, it's striking.
All the empty space, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, but there is. No, I've always liked Francis's work as well, by the way, and John's always been a solid inker. He's been in the business for a long time. And it looks like we actually featured this artwork. I'm not sure. Yeah, well, Colin does all the art featuring, and it has a highlighted on. It was highlighted in August of 2023 on the site.
Yeah, it drove a lot of traffic to my gallery, which was really kind of nice because there were a stream of comments that popped up in that time frame. So it was really nice. And also, I think of the CAF community, the Legion art collectors that are out there are some of the ones that I've probably had the most frequent conversations. One, because I'm trying to sort of pick their brains on things, or hey, do you know where something is out there? That someone's got in their collection. But also, I don't know. There's something about the Legion community of people, both the readers and the art collectors. It runs deep in your veins, I think, and
So
really
you've emailed once or twice with Mickey?
Um, Possibly, yeah, and also Aiden and a few
Aiden.
others out
Yeah.
there that provide advice and so on, and or send out a nice congratulations when something pops up in my collection that maybe we were all kind of chasing down in an auction, and um, it's it's kind of cool to have that type of interaction with people that kind of all care about the same thing, but aren't or at least don't seem to be. They're genuinely happy that you've gotten that piece, that it's ended up in your collection. I feel the same way when stuff shows up in theirs. It's like, okay, it's in good hands. It's someone who actually loves this stuff. So it's kind of cool.
Exactly. Yeah, whenever we do an art sale with Jeff Moy, right? He always has some Legion art, and there's a very passionate group of collectors who just, well, they love Jeff's stuff, but they love his Legion stuff more than anything, right?
Yeah,
Because of their love for the Legion.
yeah,
So yeah, it's always fun to host those shows because the kind of group that you're going to get together is they're very focused and interested in the artwork you're showing.
yeah. You notice you said focus, not obsessed. So thank you. I appreciate
I
that.
try to, parse my words every once in a while.
Yeah,
It is, yeah, no, I think focus is better. I mean,
yeah,
obsession is a totally different animal that sometimes we all have. I mean,
yeah,
I certainly do. I mean, I think I, I'm obsessed more with the things I can't own than those are the things when I see them I feel it, but I know that I can't buy them. There's like you go to San Diego, you see a lot of that, right? I think
oh,
it happens more often than not, but yeah. Uh, One of my favorite artists, a guy who almost got me. Well, I tried to actually commission him to do something from a Green Lantern character who I continually forget the name of. But let's look at this next piece. It's by Joe Staten
yeah,
and Dave Hunt inks. So you get a great combination there. This is from Superboy and Legion of Superheroes issue 247.
yeah,
Joe is just such a nice guy. He's great to talk to, and I've gotten to have him on the channel, I think 3 times, and just each time he's just a joy to just hang out with and ask questions of, and the chat genuinely loves to be a part of those. And I just think he's just an amazing gentleman. And yeah, I can't remember, there was some zombified Green Lantern character that we were talking about that I had no idea what he was talking about. But I remember, like, I got to see him at Heroes right after that, and I got on his commission list for one, and then he didn't get to it. But that would probably be the only time I have ever asked for a DC character to be drawn for me. But it was that personal connection, right? You have
yeah,
a great
right.
conversation with an artist, kind of like you were talking about Norton, that kind of got you started. I mean, it's just those interactions you have with a creator that compel you to pick something up, even if it means absolutely nothing to you as a character. Just the idea of being able to walk away with something that tied you to that creator was what was most important. And at some point, I got to get Joe to draw that character if I can ever remind myself who it was. I know if I ask Derek in the chat, he'll always remind me. But
Oh, I remember. Yeah.
yeah, at any rate, tell me about this page because it is awesome.
Yeah. So one of the things, aside from being a Legion page, one of the things that kind of attracted me to this is in that upper panel. Uh, I love the times where they take a stroll through the museum, and you've got all of these different pieces that are in the back of the museum that are callbacks to other stories. So that sense of history and legacy. Every once in a while in a Justice League issue, they'd wander through the museum of trophies, and you'd see all these things that were flashbacks to other issues. So that's definitely a part of this for me. It's right in that spot of I didn't buy these issues when they were coming on the stand. This was part of that treasure hunt when I was going backwards, buying Superboy and the Legion issues. And I didn't make the association at the time when I was reading the comic, but then I started to realize, and this guy, he drew the Legion, he drew All-Star Comics when it came back in the 70s. Uh, he drew the Justice Society in one of my favorite stories in a DC special. Drew Green Lantern, which I loved those issues. Just an amazing sort of history through all of this. So when I saw this, it's like, yeah, this one kind of scratches all the itches for me. It's got the history of the Legion, and then a couple of my favorite characters, including Wildfire and Lightning Lad on there. So great page.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. And I'm not sure what year. What was the year on this one? Probably the early '80s, I guess. Probably maybe
It's got to be, I think so, 247. No, it's got to be like mid 70s. I'm
mid
thinking.
'70s. Okay.
Yeah,
All right. I've just made every Legion
mid to
fan
late,
upset with me.
mid to late 70s. Yeah.
um. All right. Next piece. A little bit of a not a terrible change of pace, but artistically, you get Marco Santucci on this one from Justice Society of America. This is and it's a more recent piece, right? This is from maybe 3 years ago,
Yeah.
2022.
Yeah, that's about right. This was a series I had been reading. I've gone all to digital comics now. I don't buy any more comics. I just use I've got the DC app and the Marvel app to read stuff, and other, sort of online things like Hoopla and other places. Um, so I still, anytime the Legion, especially this era of the Legion, starts popping up in current continuity, it's a big thing for me to kind of track down some of that art, even though I don't actually own the comic. I just have it in the app, so it's a little bit of a different thing for me. But uh, this is that era of the Legion that hasn't been wiped out by one of the 100 reboots that's taken place. This is right in that sweet spot for where in the 80s, or yeah, in the 80s for me as a kid, that this is my Legion. That's, I guess, the best way to put it.
Well, it's a beautiful illustration. I love the
Yeah.
cross hatching in the mist in the ground in front of them, and the characters all are just so strong. I mean, as far
Yep.
as the execution of the drawing, it's great. Um, yeah, I mean, I've always felt like Marco's just a cool artist who I haven't bought anything from, but I mean they're always kind of on our radar, and we've definitely featured some pieces from Marco during the CAF updates, just because there's just a lot of great pieces of his on CAF. Um, yeah, no, this is really nice. So, do you use just out of curiosity, having the apps, do you use like a tablet for reading those?
Yeah. So I either off of my iPad or sometimes just off of my laptop, depending on whether I'm traveling or not and how many
Mm.
devices I'm hauling with me. But yeah, definitely off the tab. I can't do the phone part where you're just like panel by panel. I like the sort of page layout. I need that part of it, just to make it feel like it's comic for me.
Well, I have to say, I mean, I've been tempted to get those subscriptions, and I have not done it yet. But it's worth it to you, right? I mean,
Yeah, for sure. I mean, both of them, I certainly use the DC one a lot more, obviously,
mm,
but they're constantly sort of going backwards and adding to what's in the database that you can choose to read from, for sure. And depending on what plan you have, you can also get current ones where I think there's only a 3-week delay from release. I can't remember exactly how many weeks delayed from release date, but there's the ultra tier or something like that, that you don't get day of access to new issues, but it's only delayed by a couple of weeks, as opposed to
okay.
the sort of different tier where there's a month or 2 months sort of delay before new stuff
I feel
shows
like
up.
when I let the last time I looked into it, which probably was during the pandemic or something, that the delay was always like 3 months or something, and I was
Yeah,
like, but I always want to read the current stuff. If I'm going to read anything, so I feel like I'll be missing out. and it's just easier to go pick up a comic from my local comic shop, which I don't get to do too often. But I
Yeah.
remember I always felt like that's a deterrent. But you understand why they do it, because they want you to be supporting the
Go to
local
those
comic
shops,
shop.
yeah. Yeah, I get it, and like everything else, it's like paying for the no ads version of Hulu or any of the other, for an extra fee, you can get something a little more recent that way. Yeah,
Right.
I ran out of room for comics. I had to move all of them. I had, rows of drawer boxes behind me and like, okay, this is going to a storage room. I gotta move it out of here because I need to change some things up in my office. And now it's like I just don't buy, copies of comics anymore. I just use the
Mm.
app, go that way. I still buy like trades and buy hardcover sometime because of, I think that's a good way and I can put it on a shelf and it doesn't feel like it's taking up as much space that way. I don't know why. It's probably not that much different, but
I
it's easy
typically
to
only buy
manage.
trades.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a place near me where I can pick up stuff, and I'll either only buy trades from them, or whenever I tend to still like to read 2000 AD books. I pick up those every now and again, but trades are usually the way I go as well.
Yeah.
Marcus wants to know, do you use the CAF app, Jim?
I do. I
Oh,
do, and
good.
I get lovely notifications that pop up on my phone from the CAF app that tells me someone sent me a message or something. So, yeah, I do.
Good.
Absolutely.
It's indispensable for me, especially when I'm on the road.
I bet. Yeah.
Well, there you go. See, Marcus. I don't know if Marcus uses the app, but he doesn't. He told me he doesn't use the app for comments. He said it slows him down, so he needs the website full on. So you know, hey, to each their own, I think. But let's see here. Next up, oh, I thought this was a fun piece too. This was James Sherman again with Jack Abel inks, and
That's
it's
right.
but I'm not familiar with all new collector's edition.
So
What was this
those are
in?
the treasury edition. So those oversized kind of magazine size, or bigger than a magazine issue of the comics. So you would get some of them would have reprints, and then you'd get something like this in the back, which was I don't know, an 8 or maybe 8-page sort of history of everybody that was in the Legion and some of the
Hmm.
supporting characters. So this is one of those pages from it. So those treasury editions were the things where like the original Superman, Spider-Man crossover was that treasury size, oversized comic, right? And this was a Legion one. There were a few Legion issues of that and a number of them. So
So were these as big as the Marvel treasuries? Were
yeah,
those oversized? Okay,
yeah. So all of they're roughly the same size as those treasuries, and you had kind of all of these different elements that which you'd have. Some of them would have brand new stories. Some of them were just reprints, or maybe they had a framing sequence that would reprint some old issues to it, and some had just completely all new material in it. So those are pretty cool, and they stand out simply because of the difference in size and there's big, massive, issues of comics. So very cool as a kid to grab some of those and then subsequently to buy them at cons and stuff now.
now was that really their superhero clubhouse?
It
Was it,
was. So
was it
that's the
Legion?
yeah, that rocket ship pointing into the ground was the original Legion clubhouse. Um, Proportionally, it makes no sense the way it's drawn here unless it's really, really far in the background. But that was it. Bright yellow with red fins there, like it was a rocket ship. Yeah.
Well, that is different. Definitely different. So yeah, the Legion in the top there is
Yeah.
probably
Right. So
more.
the newer headquarters, right, and
Yeah.
the Legion Reserve members, including one of the victims of the crisis there, Kid Psycho in the turban.
And I knew Derek would help me out here. It's Drick from Mr. Staten. The
Oh, the zombie GL.
yeah, Drick. Isn't it like Drick from Crick or something? I can't remember. what it was, but it just had me laughing the whole time I was talking with Joe about that. But thank you, Derek. I'm just going to reach out to Joe because I saw him at Heroes too, and it crossed my mind that I should ask him, and then I couldn't remember the character name, and I didn't want to walk up to him again and not know the name of the character, so I didn't bother. But I'm just going to email him and see if I can get him to do something on the side for me.
There you
Trick
go.
State, and there we go. Yes, Drake.
Check that off the list.
I need it.
Yeah.
I should have got it when well, he was busy that show.
Yeah.
And we were talking earlier about Ivan Rice, and you mentioned, and and that's going to be the next artist we look at here. I forgot that you did have a
Yeah.
page in the set here from Ivan. This is Teen Titans Legion special book, and it's inked by Mark Campos.
Yeah. I mean, you've got um, you've got Legionnaires on this. You've got a great crossover between two of my favorite teams. You've got Legionnaires, Titans. You've got Starfire there in the upper of the sort of half splash panel. I absolutely love Yvonne Rice's art. Every bit of it is amazing to me. I have typically tried to buy his pencil art, but this was something that he released through his art dealer as part of one of their art drops years after this issue. I think it was presented as if like it was something that was in a stack of art in the back of of his um, his office, and they just put it up for sale. And I'm like, holy crap, here it is. And I I was I guess I was lucky enough to be the first one to get to it. So um, I think he's one of the sort of great artists of this generation now. I really love his art a lot.
Yeah, first panel's beautiful. Just the atmosphere that he creates around the characters is great, and yeah, that big panel at the bottom is pretty spectacular. But if I look at the detail scan, you can see some smudges on the paper from the pencil, and that's cool. Again, stuff that you
Yeah,
don't, that's what, like we were talking earlier. It's fun to be able to see, their process as to pull a piece together like this.
right. Yeah. I mean, that to me is actually I love seeing this, the amazing ink art that's done on this, but also to see all the pencil smudge, erasing, everything that it started as before the inker got a hold of it too. It's really kind of great. It is one of the nice things about looking at the art itself in your hands.
Let me get the link in the chat for everybody. Uh, and what was that? I know nothing about the Legion, but August said you would think that Matter Eater Lad would be in the substitutes, but he was in the regular Legion. Do you agree
It's a
that he would?
it's a pretty limited power set, right? I can just eat anything. You wouldn't really think that that puts you at a strong advantage with a lot of people, but it came in useful a couple of times. But yeah, you would think he would be
He didn't make the squad.
off to the side somewhere. Yeah, you got people that can fly, super strength, heat vision, all this stuff, and a guy that can just eat and digest everything. Okay.
You're right. They're probably, like Marcus says, he has to eat bombs. There had to be a reason for him. He could eat off Wolverine's claws, says Derek. Well, if he ever needed to, I guess that would be the opportunity. You can
Yeah.
see why they wanted him around.
Maybe that's the story we need in the Deadpool Batman crossover that's coming. One of the little backups they're going to do. That'd be great.
There you go.
That would be a real deep dive on the DC side of things for sure.
Now, we have three more pieces to look at, and I know you had these, and I don't have the spreadsheet open anymore. I closed it, but I remember you said something about around the meeting table or something like that. So was that by design? I mean, do you like to do you look for pages with teams having a sit down where they're whatever having a team get together meeting planning session?
It wasn't originally, but then when I was kind of looking through my collection and I saw I had a couple of pieces of it, I'm like, I never really thought about the idea that, oh, we've got this super team and we're going to sit down and have a meeting. It seemed like such a bizarre sort of thing to take place, but it happens all the time. Like especially in the Legion where they get together and they vote on a new leader and they do all the things that you do in meetings. And it just seemed like if I had all these powers, would I choose to go into a meeting and sit around a boardroom table and do something like so now, yes, I'm actively hunting meeting page. In fact, I have two new pages that I just scanned in, but I didn't put them up on the site yet from Marco that are from Justice Society of the JSA sitting around a
Mhm.
table and the Injustice Society sitting around a table from two separate issues. Anyway, yeah, so now that's I talked about fixations on things. That's right now I'm on the hunt for the perfect meeting image. So
Well, there's nothing wrong with it. I think it's kinda cool that, you collect for a while and then you realize there's a subtle theme going on in some of the
yeah,
pages that you weren't really aware of, and then but there they were,
yeah,
and, it just well, let's just look at these
sure,
3 pages, knowing that there's more than just these 3 out here. So this is kind of a cool page by itself just as an epilogue page. It's Joe Staton again with Murphy Anderson inks, which makes
right.
this, even more special from Superboy and the Legion of Superheroes, issue 245. But yeah, this is gorgeous.
Yeah, uh, again, great shot of the whole team. At that time, right, kind of sitting around the conference table. They've decided to allow Saturn Girl and Lightning Lad back in. They had a constitution, and their constitution banned married members from being on the team, and they finally amended it to allow them back in. So kind of a great little piece of Legion history. And the one great thing about the sort of meeting table aspect of these things is not so much just the fact that they're sitting at a table, but it's an excuse to have the whole team on the page, which I think is kind of cool. You get this large cast of characters that are all kind of gathered into one big panel there, which is very nice to see and a great piece of sort of Legion art for me, for sure.
Yeah, no, it's just and no water. No, no, nobody was drinking water, CJ.
Yeah, no
They
water
they, they,
patrons, right?
they
Yeah,
expected a short meeting for
right.
this one,
Right,
but
but he's
but
got
yeah,
a gavel, right? I mean, Wildfire with a gavel in his hand. It's kind of funny.
motion passed. Uh, okay, so let's see. Next one. This one's equally awesome. Again, this is Buckler and Ordway on an All-Star Squadron page, but I mean, the page is awesome, you know, all by itself, and then you throw in that second to last panel with Hawkman there. Again, gavel in hand.
Right, yeah. And it's kind of a throwback to the all-star cover where you have the Justice Society kind of together.
Hmm.
So it's another sort of it's not intended to be that same image, but it's clearly a callback to that All-Star Comics cover. So yeah, a lot to love about this. And I again big fan of the All-Star Squadron and the World War II era characters. So really, really happy to have this one. Thwam.
Yeah. Now, was this bought before you knew you were getting these,
Yeah.
team
Oh, yeah.
meetings?
Yeah, so all 3 of these, I bought at different periods of time and never had anything to do with the meeting itself. That wasn't the reason I got it. Uh, but it like you said, there must have been something subconscious in there because I was over time collecting or maybe just by buying team book art, the odds were in my favor I was gonna hit these, so
Right. I'm trying to think of X-Men sitting at a table, and I mean, I'm sure they're out there, but I can't picture them, doing that. They were usually in Professor X's, office with them all standing there looking at him behind a desk. Different, different kind of setup, I guess, but Avengers, right? Avengers always had meetings at tables, and
yeah,
the Legion.
I think that's the next link you have. It's
That is
actually
true.
when Perez, Avengers, everybody at the meeting table. Yeah, yeah, exactly.
There we go. And now this is from Avengers, the 98 series, issue 25 with
Right.
Alvey inks.
Yeah. So here the kind of cool thing is if you look, like Cap's shield is strapped onto the back of his chair, like he's hanging his coat over the back of it, right? And no gavel, but Thor's hammer on the table. And uh, this is so I don't have a lot of Marvel art in my collection, but any of the Perez Avengers art is definitely where I've gone and gotten some of the art and collected the issues too. I mean, I was still actively buying comics at that time and buying the actual issues. And this series was actually pretty cool for me and a real introduction to the Avengers. I hadn't read them, so I just didn't know much about them. I knew kind of the key characters, but anyway, so a good kind of opening experience for me into the Marvel universe.
Yeah, this was I always felt this was a underrated series. I mean, Perez's art was fantastic on it. The stories were really good, and yeah, I always enjoyed it. Wasn't buying art at the time, but I remember seeing like stacks of Perez art from this run on some dealer's table at Wizard World Chicago, probably in like 97 or so. So this is
That's
like a year before I started buying, or not 97, must have been like 98. So because this is right, yeah, it would have been around there. But I wasn't buying. It wasn't something that I would have thought about. But I regret that because, again, like these pages don't come on the market too often either. They're just fun, really good stories.
yeah, yeah,
And here you go. You got another meeting at a table here.
yeah.
Now, yeah, I thought about picking a few other pieces, but I was going through your CAF, and I'm like, we had that was 24, so we got a lot of artworks in there to talk about. Now, um, as far as like you're an active buyer still, so are there holes in your collection with like particular creators who you're trying to find pieces for with match to titles?
Probably, yeah. I've got one Marshall Rogers piece from Detective, and I love his art. I love that stretch of Detective Comics where there's the Joker issue with the fish, Hugo Strange, a whole series of them, where I had all those issues as a kid and loved those things. And I just think the art's amazing because again, it's really great art. A lot of the zipatone that's on it for sure, which for some reason I always liked that when it was being used in the art. Um, him, Marshall Rogers, and Terry Austin, right?
Hmm.
So a great sort of combination of penciler and inker. Um, that's one of those series too where I own the issues. I've bought the trade. I've bought the hardcover. I would, I'll double, triple, quadruple dip on it. But now it's like I've got one page from Marshall Rogers from a detective issue, but it's not in that stretch. I think it's more. I think if I remember correctly, it was um, just after that stretch of issues. So that's one thing that kind of fits in that. I would love to get a page from that era of his art. I think is there, yeah, 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 exactly. I think his and Terry Austin's Batman, that to me is how I knew Batman as a kid. It was those
Hmm.
comics, right? It was that run that sort of um and I don't think I bought these originally off the stand. I either a friend had it or maybe I found it sort of later in life and then went back to it and got the issues because I know I didn't get them right when they were coming out. But I've this is great, great, amazing art to me. So
Oh yeah, I mean, look at that last panel too. That's just
yeah,
phenomenal.
yeah,
But yeah, Austin, remember, as an inker, I mean, if he was on a book, maybe I wouldn't buy it, but I'd be curious. I'd want to see how it looked, right? I think he got me to buy like Cloak and Dagger when I knew nothing about it because it was Austin inks over Leonardi in it, and it would just look so good.
Yeah,
right? And you're right, him over Marshall Rogers, same thing. I mean, this is all Rogers, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
this is, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Um, but yeah, so that's the thing is collectors, there's always going to be something else that you feel like you need, right? Because there's always nostalgia plays a big part in in our collections one way or another, especially when you think about series and particular story runs and those sorts of things. So I completely get that.
Yeah.
Um,
I think I'm always on the hunt for Legion art. That's every artist, every sort of generation of it. That's something that I'm always out there looking for. Um, but mostly it's all in that window of time when I was a young kid buying those comics, and it's the art that's associated with those issues. So that Bronze Age DC team book type of art that always kind of catches my eye. So
I get it. Well, we appreciate you coming on the show tonight, Jim. It was a lot of fun and easier than you were. It's fun talking about art, right? You can do that
yeah.
anytime, anywhere.
Yeah, no, it's great, and I'm actually looking forward to being at OAX and kind of meeting some people that I've chatted with online, actually face to face, and just talking more. It's a passion, and I do love it. And thank you for inviting me because I don't think I would have ever kind of stepped out and done this without the impetus for it. And thanks for working with my schedule too. I know I had to move this once on you, so
No,
thank
no, not at all. The moment I knew you were coming to OAX, that's one of the things I think is, it's great about the channel is, allowing the, other collectors to get to know you before that. I mean, I use Jason D'Ambrosio as my D'Ambrosio as my reference all the time. It's like everybody knows who Jason is, right? He's been on the show a few times, and it's like you already know him. It just makes everybody more approachable once
Yeah,
you know their calf. You've seen it a million times, and you can't, and then trying to place a face to a name that you've seen on the site, it's difficult. But yeah, OEX is going to be great, and I'm glad that you're going to be able to make it in February. That'll be
appreciate
fun,
it.
and
Cool.
yeah, bring a portfolio. Everybody likes to look at art if you
I
can.
will. I will absolutely.
All right. Well, everybody, thank you for tuning in tonight. It's it was a pleasure having a week off, but it's a lot more fun being back in front of everybody after having that time off. So, thanks for tuning in this evening and hanging out with us. We've got our regular programming for the rest of the week, and even a show on Saturday that I won't be hosting. So you have that to look forward to as well. But Jim, thanks again for doing this, and
My
everybody,
pleasure.
you have a wonderful